guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Danielle. I'm the artist behind Creative Girl of Color, and welcome to today's video, you guys. Today, guess what we're doing? Skin tones. Yes, we're doing skin tones today, you guys. I get this question on a regular basis. This is probably the #1 question that I get. How do I mix skin tones, Danielle? How do I mix skin tones, Creative Girl of Color? You know, so I decided I was going to go ahead and just make a video for you guys. I wanted to make a full comprehensive video giving you a step-by-step tutorial on how to mix different shades. Today we're going to be doing 3 different shades of skin tone, like a brown skin, dark skin, light skin, and everything I'm using is down in the description box below, as well as tips, tricks, social media, and affiliate links, you guys. Affiliate links. Affiliate links is a great way to support my channel for free, right? You can purchase some of the materials that I'm using in this video. So, and they're all through Amazon. I'm actually using acrylics today. So that leads me right into my next point. I am using Liquitex Basics, you guys. Liquitex Basics. This is a student grade paint, and it's pretty good, you guys. This is probably my favorite student grade paint that I use on a regular basis. It's good for a multitude of different things, but you can use whatever acrylics that you have on hand today. That's just fine, right? So let's kind of jump into the colors that I'm going to be using. And don't forget, you guys, if you like this type of content, don't forget to hit the bell for all notifications. Give a girl a thumbs up. And let's get into the colors, right? So here's my colors that I'm going to be using. We have magenta, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, raw umber, titanium white, you guys. Okay? And that's what we're using today, right? And these are just so disclaimer, right? These are my colors that I use on a regular basis. These are the colors that my go-to type of colors. These are things that I've, procured. These are over time. And if you're a newbie, as you continue to mix skin tones and do different things with color mixing and color theory, you will eventually get your own recipes for skin tones as well. So this is just my recipe, you guys, but there's many different recipes out there for skin tones. So I'm going to teach you my way here today. And now, I'm going to be using a reference photo, just in case you guys don't know. This is Selena. This is one of my favorite, absolute favorite. I'm obsessed with her music. May she rest in paradise. So I decided I was going to use her. She's a perfect person to use for this particular tutorial because she has, like a lighter, fairer skin with yellow kind of undertones. Now, when you're dealing with reference photos, you guys, you want to think about, like, what does the person have on their face, right? Because sometimes photos are not always accurate because they tend to be blown out. They have filters, all of these different things that can alter the piece. So it's good to kind of swatch out your colors beforehand to figure out exactly what your colors are going to look like so that you can match it up well. And that's what I'm going to teach you, how to match up these things, right? I'm going to start mixing my colors, and I've decided I'm going to use some of these today, you guys, right? I cut up some watercolor paper into little strips, and I'm going to use these to do color matching. So as I swatch my color, I'm going to use it like that. Boom, boom. And this is a good way to color match, right? And of course I have my my thing in plastic, my reference photo under plastic, so that I don't mess up my reference photo. So this is a good way to also color match. You can go right on top. Like laminate your reference photo, right? So let me put some of this to the side, and I'm gonna mix. I have my palette knife, and I'm gonna mix up some colors, and I'm gonna try to get it as close as I can to what I feel the actual skin tone is of her, right? And because I've been doing it for quite some time, for a little while now, I'm a little familiar. But for those of you guys that are newbies out there and you're not familiar with color mixing, right? You're not familiar with color theory, I would suggest that you guys do color theory first before you actually jump into doing skin tones. Why do I do color theory first, Danielle? Well, why should you do color theory first? Why? Because color theory is the fundamentals and the foundations behind doing a beautiful, realistic portrait. And even if you're not doing a realistic portrait, whatever you do, even if you're doing black and white, monochromatic, whatever you're doing, if it involves painting and mixing colors and having a harmonious painting, I would definitely recommend that you guys go ahead and study your color theory. I'm going to link my color theory video up in the iCard in case you want to look at that prior to jumping into skin tones, because skin tones can get really complicated. There's a lot of different mixes. Also, I would suggest that as you mix your colors, if you're new to it and you're not really familiar with mixing colors, you should write down your mixes. That's what I did in the beginning, you guys. I wrote down a lot of my mixes and put it into my sketchbook, put it wherever I can get it, you know what I mean? Someplace that I can refer to later on, right? So I'm gonna pop you guys into the time lapse as I mix a lot of these colors, okay, you guys? Let's go. Okay, you guys, so we're back. Now, I've taken the liberty, let me explain to you what I mixed up, right? I did a little bit of yellow ochre, a smidge, and I do mean a smidge of burnt sienna, a little bit of magenta, and I did a little bit of raw umber here, right? Because the raw umber kind of neutralizes the color a little bit, because I'm thinking it has a little bit of green in it, but, you know, who knows what's in the raw umber, but and I mixed all of those three together, and I got me like a little bit of a base tone kind of right here, and then I got like a darker version here, and I slowly kind of bumped up the color by adding white and yellow, right? Now, let me teach you a quick trick, you guys. If you want to neutralize the yellow ochre and the other mixture even like a little bit more, right? You want to neutralize it a little bit more. I took a little bit of ultramarine blue, right? You see that? Also like barely a smidge, you guys, barely, right? And I'm gonna mix it in there with the white. Like it's gonna be mixed in with the white, which of course is gonna look great, right? And I'm gonna take that and I'm actually gonna add it in there to that yellow ochre, right? And you're probably asking yourself, why, Sway? Why? Why are you adding that blue and the yellow ochre together? Why am I doing that? Because if you look at her skin tone, right? Let's take a look at her skin tone. She has a lot of like monochromatic, everything seems to be the same shade. But you can see that there's different variations right here, right? Right here seems to be really, really yellow. Right here is really, really bright. But even though the highlight on her cheek seems to be extremely bright, it is still a neutral tone. It's not white. I know a lot of people will say, oh, this looks white. No, it's not white. It's actually, you know, still has some sort of color to it. it's really bright and it's really blown out. So don't make that mistake. A lot of people make that mistake. I'm just going to add white on the cheeks, especially even when you're dealing with a lighter person or a Caucasian person. You don't just add straight up white. I would recommend that you guys never just add straight up white unless you want to do like an extremely bright highlight type of thing, okay? And we're not trying to do that. But we're gonna do some color matching after we do these colors. Now, of course, I always recommend that you guys mix your colors beforehand, especially when it comes to acrylics, because they dry so quickly. Like, they literally want to dry while you're mixing them, right? They literally dry, like drying on my palette as we speak. And also, you should be spraying your palette. So I would recommend that you mix your colors beforehand and start to color match and swatch it out before you even work on a portrait. Okay, so you see how that blue made that look like a sandy, like, you know, muted out type of yellow, right? And this is probably what I'm gonna need when it comes to the bright highlight on her cheek. And right, but of course we're gonna swatch it out. Yeah, now she has somewhat of a shadow right here, so let's think about that. These are the things you want to think about. You want to go around and think about what is it and try to match it as close together. But again, in art, you don't have to be exact with these things. These things are not exact. This is not an exact science. You're an artist, you have artistic license, you can do what you want. But if you want to do a realistic portrait, you want to do as much color matching as you can get, right? Now this shadow, now I wouldn't add any dark tones in this shadow. Even though it looks pretty dark under there, it's not actually like black or like a dark brown. You know, you don't just slap anything under there. What you would do is you would take that base tone, which is like a caramel type of skin, you know, or like caramel, and you would just darken that a little bit with maybe a little bit of magenta, a little bit of raw umber you could add to it, or maybe even some burnt sienna. But in her case, she has yellow undertones, you guys. Remember, yellow undertones. So she doesn't have hardly any red in her skin tone. So I wouldn't add too much red. I wouldn't add too much magenta. You could add little hints of it just to give her a little bit of warmth and color, right? Even though her lips are quite red type of thing. You know what I'm saying? And there's a glare kind of like popping off of here. So let me see if I can adjust that. I'm just adjusting that, you guys, so it's not too much of a glare for you. So yeah, now I want to try to see if I can swatch that out, right? Again, remember I talked about that I have my little things right here in the corner. And I'm gonna take a little bit of that mixture with my palette knife and spread it on here, right? See how we spread it right there, you guys? Okay. Now look, the paper is white. Even though this looks really bright on the palette, it's not white. You see what I'm saying? And we're gonna take our picture. And as we take our picture, we're gonna go in and see, that's a good color match, you guys. It's very good. Now, it would probably be more like a mid-tone, right? If you wanna do like a mid-tone. And I'm gonna show you different ways to kind of blend this stuff out, because acrylics, you gotta work quickly and you gotta use enough water or glazing liquid, but not too much as to break down the chemical composition of your color, right? So look, that looks pretty good for here, you know, like she has that mid, as the cheek starts to turn, she has that piece right there, right? So I'm thinking that's pretty good. I mean, what do you guys think? I think that's pretty good right there. We have a pretty good color match. Now, remember with acrylics, right? And even though on the palette it looks really dark, but you can see on here, as it starts to dry, it gets darker and darker, right? So this would be a good mid-tone. Now, you got to think about as you, let me put this down over here. You want to think about, I'm going to add more white, right? Because I'm going to bump it up even more. Pump it up, right? We want to pump that up, right? And in this case, I'm using kind of like a craft paint white. So since I'm using like a craft paint white, I need to really, really be careful. I mean, I need to do a lot of mixing here because craft paint doesn't give you a lot of coverage. It doesn't have a lot of pigment. It's a really cheap paint, you know? Okay, so now I done bumped that color up even more, right? You guys, you see that, right? I bumped it up even more. Now, I would suggest you bump it up even more. Why? Because acrylics dry darker, like I said. Now I'm gonna get another swatch piece over here in the corner. Right, we're gonna get another swatch piece, and I'm gonna take this white. Now, even though, well, it's not even white, but it looks damn near white. You know what I'm saying? But it's not white, right? And then I'm gonna put it here. See, look at that, you guys. That looks pretty close. Let me try to get it in here for you guys so you can see it. See, that looks pretty close, pretty close. You see how we're swatching things? We're moving along here, you guys, moving along, right? Okay, so let's think about the shadow, like underneath her chin, right? We want to think about that, and at the same time, I'm getting paint all over my hand. So let me grab, you should definitely have some towels. Trying not to hit my tripod at the same time. Okay, so I cleaned off my palette, wiped it off with a rag. Now, let's get into the shadow that is underneath here, right? Now, what am I going to do with the shadow? I'm going to go back to this kind of base here, right? Because we had some base color right here. This is base color, and it's not even a base color. It's just a color that I mixed off to the side, and it's not the right color, right? So what is this? Raw umber, yellow ochre, lots of yellow ochre, a little bit of burnt sienna. I'm going to get a little bit of magenta right here, right? Because remember, this is going underneath her chin. Oh, man, and I think I added a little bit too much. And don't worry about it. Now, if you add too much, you can always just start a new pile. Go over here, start a new pile. It's not a big deal, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I just did just now. Voila, right? Start a new pile, but I still have some of that same mixture on my my palette. Now we can go in. I think I need more white. Now we can go in, put out more white, and we still have to lighten it with white. Also, let me, tip of the day. The lighter the person is, the more white you have to add, and the less of the darker colors like burnt sienna, raw umber, the less of those colors you have to add to the person, you know? And with these 7 colors, you guys, right? These 7 colors, I'm able to make a variant or a deep variation of skin tones, you guys, right? Just with those 7 colors that I have on my palette. So you can do a lot. Now, if you guys at home don't have cadmium red, if you don't have Quin Magenta, and like an ultramarine blue, if you don't have any of the colors that I have, don't worry about it. Your mixtures won't come out exactly the same as mine, but as long as you have the basis of what I'm getting, what I'm putting down, you know what I'm saying, then you'll be good to go, pretty much. Okay, so you see that we mix that together, and we're getting like a darker tone, but it's not so dark like you know, it's not like a dark brown like if you're doing an African American skin tone, because we still have that white in there. That white kind of cooled that thing down. You see how we have like that darker tone, right, you guys? Okay, so let's try that. Let's swatch it and see what we get. See how close we get on that. Oh, that's still kind of wet. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, so I swatched some of that. Wiping off my palette knife here in the corner. So let's think about what we have here. Okay, that's not a match. As you can see, that's a little bit too red. You can see it right there. It's too red. So again, remember what I was saying before, that she doesn't have a lot of red in her skin tone. She has more yellow. So what am I going to do? I'm going to add more yellow, right? What would you suggest that I do? Add more yellow. You got the key to, that's why I say study color theory, because the key to learning skin tones is basically playing around with the different variations and knowing how to mix colors, right? So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to try to do a different variant on that. I'm going to get more of this little burnt umber. I mean, whatever this is. It's not burnt umber, but it's raw umber. I'm going to get some of this. And if you don't have raw umber, you could also use burnt umber for this, you guys. Or if you really roughen it, you can just mix a little bit of red, a little bit of red, yellow, and maybe even a little bit of black, you know, but very, very little. If you happen to use black, you need to use very, very little, you know, like barely, like a dab of it, okay? Okay, so now I added burnt umber, raw umber, and I don't know why do I keep wanting to say that name? I don't know. Okay, so because I wanted to kind of cool it down, I want to kind of bump it over to, it's kind of like a brownish, like a light brownish tinge, right? So let's get another swatch so we can save our lives here. So I kind of played around with that color. Let's do it again. I think it's still a little bit too red, right, you guys? Still a little bit too red. So again, we're gonna go in again, play around with these colors. Colors. All right, so I'm not gonna add any more red. We definitely don't wanna add any more of that, because that's just not gonna be a good look to be adding too much of that stuff. But I'm gonna add a little more yellow, right? So let's get some yellow. And I'm gonna add more raw umber. Raw umber is good because it's a great mixing color, you guys. Right? It's pretty neutral brown color. So that's kind of why I like it. And it's good for mixing like monochromatic blacks and stuff like that. Right, you guys? Now, on the palette, these colors look, you know, ominous. They look like regular kind of run-of-the-mill stuff. Like, oh, you wouldn't even like think of these colors, you know, on their own. But once they come together, they create magic, darling. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's the whole point of that. Okay, then that is definitely a dark brown. It looks dark on there. You see that, you guys? It's definitely kind of like a darker brown. I think we could kind of get away with that. Again, things don't have to be necessarily straight dead on. Especially today, we're just putting in that practice, putting in that work, getting you guys used to mixing colors, right? All right, so I wiped off. Here's my thing. I'm wiping this off because I don't know what's going on. Come on, rude boy, boy. I don't know why I'm singing. Okay, so we have our colors. Now, I want to give you guys another tip, right? This is a bonus tip where, again, when you mix your colors out, I put these little boxes here because you can use these as swatches. So, for instance, for example, right? We're going to get those same colors, and you should always have a highlight, mid-tone, and shadow, you guys. That is an integral part of doing any type of painting. It doesn't matter what it is. And even if you're not painting, that's a fundamental part of art, period. Even if you're like somebody that does charcoal work, you do pastels, watercolor, whatever medium that you happen to be in, you should definitely have a shadow, mid-tone, and a highlight at the very least. Different variations, especially when it comes to skin, because skin is not just one particular color, you guys, right? So, swatching. We're supposed to be swatching out. I have my different tones here and that I'm going to pick up, right? So, we have like our shadow color, and I put that there, right? Put that there, you guys. And then you can also go in. Oh, no, I put it in the wrong place. I put that in the wrong place. All right, so it's supposed to be down here. Okay, so it would be good to kind of read, right? Read what you put on your own paper. Okay, so anyway, here it is right here. Now, even though this is for, I put, Latino, light skin and stuff like that, right? Even though that says Latino, there's many different shades of Latino type of person, Spanish person. There's many different shades. There's not one particular shade. You have to use discernment when you're dealing with a portrait, or if you have a commission. You have to decide exactly what colors you should be using for that particular thing, because every person is going to be different. Every person has different skin tone, have different variations on the skin tone, and there's many different colors that go along in it, you know what I mean? Anyway, and I'm washing out my brush in between colors, you guys, so that the colors don't get muddy. Okay, so now I'm going to this next tone, because then we said we had another tone here. The mid-tone, right? It was like a mid-tone. Yeah. So we had a mid-tone right here. Alright, so I put the mid-tone here. And wiping off my brush, washing it out. And we have a highlight. Remember? You guys remember that highlight I was telling you about? The high highlight, right? It looks almost white, but it isn't, right? So these are like the different shades that make up her particular skin tone, right? And you should have these different shades. Now that we found that out, what I'm gonna do is pop it into the bubble, and this bubble signifies the contours of a cheek type of thing, and it's a good way to kind of practice. All right, I'm gonna pop you guys into the time lapse. Okay guys, and we're back, right? So what do we do? Let's basically dig in and assess what we did, right? So we swatched it out down here. We got our mid-tone, shadow, highlight, right? So that we can refer back to that. What I did is I did somewhat of a gradient, how it would look, you know, if I actually applied it to her face, which is shadow, and then she has like a mid-tone kind of right there, and going across her cheek, and then you have a highlight, right? So I did the same thing here, which would be like a wet into wet type of situation, where you work quickly and you just tile on different shades of color. And I went around in a circle, and that's one way you can do it, right? Now the next one that we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to do it a different way, where we're going to go right in with the mid-tone, and then we're going to put the colors on top. Again, remember you guys, don't quit in the middle of, you know, painting and get frustrated. A lot of people quit during the ugly stage. Painting goes through stages, especially acrylics. Acrylics go through massive amounts of weird stages, especially depending on the type of paint you use, the surface that you're using, etc., etc., right? So those are the things that you want to think about, and don't quit. Keep going, keep applying those layers. You should be doing at least 2 to 3 layers. If you have maybe a pro paint, you could probably get away with 2 layers, especially when it comes to portraits, right? All right, so I'm gonna pop you guys into the time lapse, right? And let's get into the next one. Okay, you guys, so let's talk about our next reference photo. This is a reference photo that I took of my daughter. She's absolutely gorgeous, my daughter Tatiana, and as you can see, she has a lot of blue undertones in her skin, right? So that's, again, we're going to use these same 7 colors, but we're just going to mix it a little bit different, and we're not going to, as you go darker in skin tone, African American skin tones tend to have less white. They have, if you want to lighten it, you're going to use more of a yellow, right? And in this case, I'm using a yellow ochre, which yellow ochre is a dope color to use instead of the regular yellow. But if you don't have yellow ochre, you could also use regular yellow, right? And I'm gonna use a little more yellow ochres and browns with her. She doesn't have too much warmth in her skin, besides underneath the eyes, that I see a little bit of warmth underneath the eyes, right? But again, there's many different variations in the skin, but we're just gonna focus on the mid-tone, shadow, and highlight, okay? And I'm gonna take these same colors and let's get into it. And we're gonna mix it, swatch it out, and we'll talk about it again. Okay guys, so let's talk about and reassess what we just did, right? We're gonna talk about the colors and stuff like that, We're gonna talk about that stuff. Now, as you can see, I did the same thing. I swatched it out. You can see I have a shadow, kind of like a mid-tone, then you have a little bit of a highlight there, and then you have another shade right there. So you can really get into these different shades, you guys. Now, what colors did I mix? You probably wanted to know, yeah? For her particular skin tone, since she has a lot of blue undertones, and more like yellows, not too much red. So that's pretty much what I mixed, right? And I did mostly raw umber, very little bit of burnt sienna, and a little bit of magenta, and I mixed blue. Now, blue and raw umber will create a dark value like this. It'll look really dark, like a monochromatic black. But in this case, I left it more to the brown side of the scale, like of the gray scale, right? So basically mix it till it's like a really dark brown. And I just kept adding little bits of blue as I went along. Same thing with, and then I did different shades of the brown, right? And I just started to slowly bump it up with those same variations. Just started to add a little more yellow. I added a little bit more. This part started to turn a little bit more green because I added raw umber and yellow ochre. And this right here is the highest highlight she has in her face whatsoever, even though it looks like a brown, right? It's like a darker skin of brown, but remember, she's a darker skin tone. So this is the brightest highlight, you guys, that's on her face. I swatched it out and I tested it out to figure how things would be, right? So I added this is when I actually went in and added mostly yellow ochre, a little bit of raw umber, and white. But I literally used a dab of white, you guys, like that. You can see it on my brush. Like literally used a dab of white, right? Because you don't need a lot to kind of just bump that value up just a little bit. That's because today I don't have any unbleached titanium, which I would suggest that you guys get, or zinc white, because that'll bump up your value when it comes to African American skin tones and not basically blow the whole thing out. I would definitely suggest you guys, if you're doing African American skin tones, you definitely should not be using just straight white, like, because we don't have that in our skin. We have a lot of blue tones, oranges, reds. Some of us even have green in our skin. So you really got to pay attention to what you're looking at when you're doing that particular piece. All right, so we did that one. Let's jump into our last skin tone, you guys. And then all right. Next up, okay, here's our next model. As you know, hopefully you know, this is Vivica Fox. I just pulled this off the internet somewhere. This is in my reference arsenal, right? Now, with her, this is another African American skin tone, another black woman, black goddess. And as you can see, she has a different skin tone, you guys, altogether, even though she's black. But all black people don't look the same, okay? We all don't look the same, and we all don't have the same skin tone. It's the same thing with any other race, okay? So she has, as you can see, she has more reds, more pinks, stuff like that in her skin tone. Now, let's think about the fact that she has on a lot of makeup, you guys. Lots and lots of makeup, right? So since she have on lots of makeup, and there is a professional, like, headshot picture, the picture is kind of blown out, you're going to see these extreme highlights and stuff like that. She seems like she has some highlights over there. And you're going to see, you know, because of the makeup, they put, like, rouge and da-da-da-da, right? And as you can see, towards the hairline, it gets a lot darker. And then you have your extreme highlights there. Again, we're gonna mix up a mid-tone, shadow, and highlight. But there's many, many different tones when you're dealing with skin tones, okay? I can't stress that enough. Because a lot of times you guys are wondering, why is my portrait looking flat? A lot of times, if you're not mixing different variations in the tones, if you're not putting different colors in your portraits, no matter what the colors are, it's going to look flat. It's going to read as flat. It's going to read as unfinished. So, you know, render it to the finish line, you guys, okay? All right, so we're going to mix up her skin tone. I'm going to mix it up to the best of my ability based off of what I see. And then we're going to swatch it and we'll be back. Okay guys, so let's reassess, right? We've already mixed our colors, pretty much the same order of operation. We put our gradient in, laid down everything. And of course, on camera, these things look the same, right? It looks like similar browns, but it's not. It's subtle differences, subtle difference and variation on color mixing, okay? And as you can see, as I swatched it out, she has more reds and like oranges and stuff like that in her cheeks, and you know, in the highlights in her you know, in her cheekbones, highlights, see that red rouge and stuff like that. So versus my daughter had more blue undertones, a little bit more yellows and stuff like that. So those are those little nuances, you guys, that you'll see when you're mixing these different things, right? And of course, I just played around with the different variations, as you can see when I was color mixing, and I just added a lot more reds, like burnt sienna, Quin Magenta, stuff like that. And then still, I even added a little bit of red to the dark monochromatic brown here that I used for my daughter. But except for my daughter, I didn't add as much red. Like, I omitted the red because she doesn't have that much red in her skin tone, right? So that's pretty much that, okay, you guys? Now, we are almost at the finish line, you guys. Oh my God. Oh my God. If you guys made it to the end, you are an absolute superstar. I'm gonna do a quick demo. This is a bonus for you guys, right? I took some time to kind of draw out, right? So this is like an old drawing that I did some time ago. Now, they kind of have the similar structures, bone structures, don't they? Similar bone structures. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna demonstrate on here kind of what I mean, right? When dealing with her skin tones, we're gonna put it into practical use, right? Now, the only way is to get this down packed, you guys, is to get out there and do it. Get it done. Do these practices yourself at home. If you attempt to do these color mixes or do this tutorial, hit me up on Instagram under the hashtag Creative Girls of Color, and I will surely get at you, give you some advice if you need it. Da da da, blase blase, blase blase. You know what I'm saying? Okay, so I'm gonna get back into this mixture. We're gonna get this mixture going real quick. Again, we're gonna do that shadow, right? So you got this shadow color. Again, this is something wet under here. I think I spilled some water here. This is acrylic, you guys. So you want to go quickly, right? And this brush right here comes in handy, right? Handy dandy brush. So towards her hairline, right? Towards her hairline, she has more of like a shadow. So you want to lay your shadows down. I tend to lay my darks down first, and then I go in on top with the other stuff. So look, even though that looked pretty dark on the palette, it's not that dark. Again, you want to work quickly. Then I'm going right in with the mid-tone, right? And your brush stroke should kind of follow the contours of the cheek. You guys, yeah? contours of the cheek here. And you still have that darker tone right there at the bottom. But, you know, what you guys can do also is you can fill the whole face in with the mid-tone and then go back in with the shadow and the highlight. Boom. You know, that just, that fixes that whole thing. Now let me get into this mid-tone here. I mean, this highlight. And even that's not light enough. The good thing with acrylics is, see how right here, right, is very light and bright. So the cheeks, which are centered right underneath the eyes, right? There's like the bridge of the lip and stuff like that. And I'm working quickly. Keep your brush wet. Keep it moving. Spray your palette if you feel like you need to, you guys, right? And then if you want to blend that out, right? You want to blend that whole thing out. I'm actually going to add a little bit of red in there. Right? And that's more like magenta. You want to blend that whole thing out. Keep your brush wet. Keep it clean in between colors. And move, right? And then you're just going to blend. Blend, you guys. Keep it moving. Keep it cute. Keep it tight. And you see how you have that blended kind of color in there. Now this is paper, so this paper is going to tend to be, it's not going to be as forgiving, right? And again, this has to do with layers. Right now, right, it looks ugly at this stage, but you can continue. Add more and more layers, at least 2 to 3, 4 layers, depending on the viscosity and the pigments in your paint, how much you know, the type of paint that you have. So just keep layering on. This seems to be dry. Now I can even go in like right here, right? This has a lot of bit of a highlight right here on the bridge, near the bridge of her nose in the reference photo. This has a bit of a highlight right there, right? And again, it doesn't look like anything now because we're in the ugly stage. But if I keep going, keep layering, keep blending, now I'm gonna even get I'm gonna go back into my mid-tone, right? And boom. Now I done went back into my mid-tone. And you see I went back into my mid-tone type of thing. And can even keep just layering. You see how all these little colors lead up into, oh bam, we have a person here. We have a person. Voila, it's alive. Right? You have a whole person in here. Now again, when you're dealing with acrylics, you know, you gotta try to work quick to blend that out so you don't have any harsh, hard lines right there. And, okay, say you feel like this is too dark, it's too whatever, like it's not the color that you want, or you want it to go lighter, wait till it dries, put another layer down, make it lighter and brighter, and continue to add the layers until you get it the way you want it. The good things about acrylics is that you can do a lot of layering and you can cover things up that you don't like, right? All right, you guys, that is the end of my demo. I hope you got so much value out of that, you guys. That was a power-packed tutorial out of this world. Make sure you give a girl a thumbs up, and don't forget to save it to your playlist. If you can't watch it right now, share it, love it, like it, play it in the background as you're creating your own creations. And I love you guys so much. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.